Hi guys, it's me ChazzaHD and welcome this morning, with 3 hours to go until the race begins, to the race preview for the 2021 Dutch Grand Prix. Hopefully you guys are doing well on what is a misty, warm Sunday morning for me in my part of the UK. And yeah, hopefully no matter what part of the world you're in, no matter what time it is, day it is, hopefully you're having as best a day as you can be possibly having. And hopefully with me in this stream, you will be previewing, say mentally or, commenting in the chat, what you think will happen in today's Grand Prix after a qualifying session yesterday that was exciting to a point. It wasn't one of the best sessions we've had this season, but it was still good. And we do have some interesting storylines that I think are going to play out during the Grand Prix. Some interesting drivers in some interesting positions that you can already see on the left-hand side of the screen there. So, yeah, I think we are in for an interesting race. Maybe not a race with that much racing because it is a very tight circuit and lots of corners. So, we'll have to see what happens. But I think we are definitely in for battles when it comes to the pit stops and stuff like that. So, we'll see what happens. And, of course, in this stream, I will preview what battles to look out for and just what I think will happen in today's race. But firstly, let's get into the qualifying results from yesterday and get into what the starting grid for the Dutch Grand Prix later today will be. So Max Verstappen starts his home race on pole position. Lewis Hamilton just behind in second place. Very close to pole position in the end, even though really at times during the session he was lagging quite a bit behind Max Verstappen. Valtteri Bottas in third, and then you've got Pierre Gasly fourth, Charles Leclerc fifth, Carlos Sainz in sixth, and then Giovinazzi seventh. What a result for him. And if he can get a sixth or a seventh place finish today, might save his F1 career. It might save his F1 career. Giovinazzi 8th, Ocon 7th, Ocon 8th, Alonso 9th, Ricciardo 10th, then Russell 11th, Stroll 12th, and then Norris, Latifi, Tsunoda, Perez down in 16th place. We'll get onto him in a moment. And then Vettel 17th, Kubica 18th, 19th is Mick Schumacher, and 20th, of course, is Nikita Mazepin. And that is your starting grid. And thankfully, for the moment, hopefully I don't jinx it, there are no grid penalties. Like, of course, we had at Spa. We had a few grid penalties, and obviously we didn't get a race. But it's nice that we don't have too many grid penalties, and the grid is, the way it should be in terms of, that's the way it finished, and that is, where people deserve to start, instead of there being penalties that kind of jumble things around and put people out of position when they don't really deserve to be. Anyway, let's now get into the two top teams who will be battling for victory today. First off, Mercedes, who I think will be not happy with what they, did yesterday in qualifying, because obviously they didn't get pole position. They are a winning team. And, if they don't get number one position, they're not going to be happy. But I think, given how quick they were on Friday when a lot of the teams were doing their race simulations, and given that Sergio Perez is out of play, I think Mercedes were very satisfied with their result. Of course, could have been better. If they had got pole position, that would have been great. But they didn't. And I still think ultimately Verstappen and Red Bull were just too quick on the day. And I think today it will still be pretty hard for Hamilton and Mercedes to beat Red Bull and Max Verstappen. But again, with Sergio Perez out of play, and with the Mercedes car on heavier fuel, and probably having, say, a tad better tyre wear, I think Mercedes are still in a good position, and I think without doubt they can still win the race today. It just won't be as easy as, say, it would be at other tracks where, say, overtaking is easier. I think, and we kind of heard this from Toto Wolff, I think, yesterday, that Mercedes are essentially going to split their strategy when it comes to how to attack Max Verstappen, and they're going to try. And I think this was one of the quotes from an interview he did. Try and put Max under the most amount of pressure they can. And really, if I was Mercedes, splitting the strategy is absolutely what I would do, because with Sergio Perez down in 16th place, and Perez is not going to be troubling the Mercedes in the race at all, unless, of course, Perez is being lapped, because I do think Sergio Perez will get held up quite a lot in traffic during the Grand Prix. So yeah, unless, he plays a role there, Sergio Perez is not going to affect the two Mercedes in this Grand Prix. So I think what you're going to see is, and given that we're on the C3, C2, C1 compounds this weekend, the three hardest, I don't think they're going to be pitting maybe as early as people would expect around this circuit, given the long, fast corners. I think they'll probably start pitting, say, lap 25-ish, I think, is when they'll start to pit. I don't think they'll pit, say, lap 15, lap 20. I don't think they'll pit that early, because I think because of the harder compounds, they'll be able to go just that bit longer into the Grand Prix. But, yeah, what I think will happen is, and this is an ideal situation, really, for Mercedes, if they can get both drivers, if they are second and third, if they can have both drivers within, say, 4 to 5 seconds of Max Verstappen, who would be the leader in that case, what they, I think, will then go for, which is what I would go for if I was them, is Valtteri Bottas to pit first, force Max Verstappen then to react, say, a lap or two later, and then Lewis Hamilton, just run him a lot longer into the Grand Prix, so he has fresher tyres for the end of the race. That, I think, is the ideal strategy for Mercedes, and I think that is the only way, unless Lewis Hamilton gets ahead of Max Verstappen on the first lap, or if there's a safety car, if Hamilton then passes Verstappen on a safety car restart, which, to be honest, I don't see happening. If that doesn't happen, then the only realistic way I see Mercedes winning is doing that strategy, running Hamilton longer into the Grand Prix after Verstappen is pitted, by, pitting Bottas before Verstappen to force Max to pit a bit earlier than, say, Red Bull would ideally want to. And then, like I said, run Hamilton longer into the Grand Prix to lap 30, 35 even. And then he's on fresher tyres for the end of the race, and then he can hunt down Max Verstappen and put him under real pressure. Still doesn't mean they can win the race, because overtaking is, it's like that saying, catching is one thing, passing is another. So still doesn't mean they're going to win the race, but I think realistically, if they can't get ahead on a safety car restart or a first lap, I don't think that there's any other way other than that way, the strategy way that I just explained, of them winning the race. So they're going to have to try it, and thankfully, from their point of view, Sergio Perez is out of play, and they can go 2 against 1 against Max Verstappen. But Max Verstappen, as we move on to Red Bull now, has been very quick this weekend and has looked consistently quicker than the two Mercedes this weekend. Like I said, though, the Mercedes' race pace on Friday was pretty good, but it is still pretty close between Mercedes and Red Bull when it comes to that. And I think with Red Bull and Verstappen, they just need to get the big moments right and then hope that Mercedes don't say, how do I explain this? When it comes to running Hamilton later into the Grand Prix to have those fresher tyres, they need to hope that that strategy doesn't quite work for them if they do, Red Bull, excel in those big moments. The big moments being, obviously, first lap, keeping Verstappen ahead and in the lead of the race. Safety car restarts, if there's any of that, then, of course, keeping ahead is very important there, and just making sure when they pit is correct and not, pitting too late or pitting too early, but also making sure the pit stops are right. If they get all that right, then they just need to hope that Mercedes don't really gain enough by pitting Hamilton later in the race for Hamilton then to come through and win. And I still think Max Verstappen is the favourite to win this Grand Prix. I'd say he's probably 70% there. I think on the first lap, really, I don't see Verstappen and Hamilton going wheel to wheel for that long. I think on the exit of turn 1, I'd be surprised if they were still side by side. Because I think the outside line, which I believe Max Verstappen has in pole position there, will be the better line to just pull around the outside and have the better acceleration off the corner. So I don't think Verstappen and Hamilton are really going to be side by side on the first lap like people are, making it up to be. Because, of course, this is the first time these two have started on the same row of the grid since Silverstone. And, of course, at Silverstone, they had their accident. But I don't think that's going to happen today. I think Max Verstappen, like I said, 70%, I'd say he's there when it comes to the race victory. Just got to make sure the big moments they get right, and they should be in a very good position. And of course, if Max Verstappen does win the race today, even if Lewis Hamilton gets the fastest lap, Max Verstappen will take the lead back in the World Drivers' Championship. And I think Red Bull, if Sergio Perez can come through and get some good points, they might be able to retake the lead of the Constructors as well. We'll have to see on that. But like I said, if Verstappen does win, no matter what Hamilton does in second with the fastest lap point, Max Verstappen will retake the lead of the World Drivers' Championship. So a big day for Max Verstappen in front of his home crowd. For Sergio Perez, they're just going to have to run him into the Grand Prix as long as possible to try and jump a few cars in the pack with the overcut, of course. And then with fresher tyres at the end, if he does need to make up more positions, he'll have very good pace, obviously a quicker car and all of that, and he should be able to make his way through. Starting in 16th, though, it's going to be a pretty tough race because unless he makes a very good start and gets up to, say, 13th or something, I think Perez might struggle to get, say, any higher than 9th place, really, because, again, going to be hard to overtake, especially hard to overtake if there's a DRS train, which I do expect in this race from a couple parts of the grid. So I think Perez will probably get held up quite a lot in that and lose a lot of time. And then when he does run longer into the Grand Prix, which I do expect, he probably won't be able to gain as much time on all of the midfield teams as he would be hoping. So I think, yeah, realistically, given what I've just said, I think 9th and 10th is really where Sergio Perez is going to end up. If he gets any better than that, then I think he's, had a very good drive today. But I don't think, honestly, he will finish any higher than 9th in this Grand Prix. It's a shame because Perez was looking in the first stages of qualifying. And also in practice 3, Perez was looking pretty decent, but then just fell away at the end of Q3, unfortunately, when he probably would have qualified in 4th place in the final part of qualifying, if, of course, he made it. But he didn't because his lap time, obviously, was not good enough, and he didn't set an improvement at the end of the session. But even though Mercedes, when it comes to, going back to the fight at the front, even though Mercedes, I think, will probably have the faster car and the better race car overall, I think vitally, because Red Bull have track position, you've got to make them favourites today. You've got to make them favourites. So I'd have to say Red Bull are definitely in a better position coming into this race than Mercedes are. Of course, they have grid position, so of course they're in a better position, but I think because of this circuit, going to be very hard to see Max Verstappen overtaken here, really. And I don't think, honestly, if anyone tries to overtake him, that he is even going to allow them to overtake him. And I think he'll be very harsh if anyone, like I said, tries it with him in this Grand Prix. He won't want to be embarrassed in front of his home fans, I don't think. But yeah, Red Bull, definitely, I think the favourites coming into this Grand Prix. Now let's get into the midfield. McLaren had probably, and I think it actually is, their worst qualifying result of the season so far. They've had cars knocked out in Q2 this season. Normally it's just one car, say Daniel Ricciardo, that's been knocked out a few times. I think even Ricciardo was knocked out in Q1 a couple times this season. So, like I said, it's not one car getting knocked down Q2 for McLaren hasn't exactly been uncommon. It's not that really big of a surprise, but overall as a team, normally whoever the fastest McLaren is tends to be up in the sharp end of the grid. But they're only 10th and 13th, and I think honestly, with that result, I mean Lando Norris probably could have gone a lot quicker at the end of the session, end of Q2. Of course, the red flag caused by Nicholas Latifi did not help matters. So that's why Lando Norris could not improve from 13th place. But saying that, Lando was not that quick in qualifying. He barely made it into Q2 and then was in the drop zone really for the entire of Q2 until the very end where the session, was red flagged and didn't resume again. The Norris didn't really have that great a pace, I have to say, in qualifying in the first couple parts. And Ricciardo also wasn't that quick. And I don't think McLaren really this weekend have been that great. Probably one of the weakest tracks they've performed at so far. And one of the weakest tracks I think you'll see, track performances from McLaren, you'll see this season. Still think they'll finish in the points with Daniel Ricciardo. I think if he can get in the top 8, that would be a very good result for him and for the team as well. And Lando Norris just has to try and get into the top 10 somehow, some way. Even if it's only 10th, I think that would be a decent effort considering he's starting from 13th. But given their main rivals in the Constructors, this team, Ferrari, are 5th and 6th, locking out the third row of the grid. I think McLaren are going to have a bad day compared to Ferrari because Ferrari are clearly quicker. They have been all weekend. McLaren Science are probably, this is one of the first qualifying sessions this season where both drivers have got the best out of themselves and the car, respectively. So Ferrari in a very strong position. This has been one of their strongest circuits this season so far. Not as strong, of course, as Monaco and Baku and even Silverstone to a certain extent. Not strong as those tracks, but around Zandvoort, Ferrari have been really, since Friday practice, even the first practice session, have been flying out the blocks and very, very quick. And I think, honestly, they've been that good this weekend. They'll be disappointed they're 5th and 6th because Gasly, I think, really has outperformed the car there, being up in 4th place. And I think Ferrari would have been hoping, with Perez out of the action, to be 4th and 5th. Because, of course, if they finished there, that's 22 points, which would be a massive point haul for Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. But it's 5th and 6th on the grid. And as long as Ferrari can make sure the cars behind don't contend with them, such as the Alpines and Ricciardo and Giovinazzi, then, of course, then they can focus all their effort on trying to beat Pierre Gasly. And I think they will beat Gasly with one of their cars, but I don't think with both, because I think Gasly has been very quick this weekend. I think Gasly will be able to finish in the top 5. So I think Leclerc probably will finish in 4th, with Gasly 5th and Carlos Sainz in 6th. But really, as long as Ferrari do finish with both cars in the top 6, that would be a very good result. And I think it would see them retake 3rd in the Constructors' Championship, of course, depending on where McLaren finish, but I don't think McLaren are really going to finish in that great of a position, to be honest. But Ferrari looking good. And as we now get on to, as we normally do, the sector time data, you'll see that Ferrari are not just good in a certain part of the track, they're really good in all parts of the circuit. So let's get on to that now. And with Ferrari, we'll start with them. Is Sector 1, which is probably the most power dominant. So you'd say that's probably their weakest sector. They are, 7th and 8th, which is decent, I have to say. Sector 2, they're, 4th and 6th, which is probably the sector you'd expect Ferrari to be at their strongest. And then Sector 3, they are 4th and 6th again. So, as expected, in Sector 2 and Sector 3, where there's a bit more slower, medium-speed corners, Ferrari are even stronger and very, very good. And they pretty much are the best team after Red Bull and Mercedes, which is why I think they will be, again, disappointed that they did lose out to Gasly in qualifying when it comes to the fight for 4th place. Because in Sector 2 and Sector 3, you can clearly see Ferrari are quicker. Not by much compared to Gasly, but overall, they are quicker. And really, I think the sector that really helped Gasly get 4th place was Sector 1, because Gasly was half of a tenth quicker in Sector 1 compared to Sector 2 and Sector 3, where Ferrari were, quicker in those sectors, say, with Charles Leclerc. So, yeah, Ferrari looking very, very good, and I think I don't really see them suffering major tyre wear issues. I think the biggest reason for that is because it's not very warm at Zandvoort. It's not, say, as hot as it's going to be next weekend at Monza, so I think Ferrari will be fine on that. Now, back to the front, Red Bull and Mercedes. So, Verstappen, not really a surprise how quick he was in Sector 1, because again, it's the most power-dominant sector. The Honda power unit is, I would say, the strongest power unit on the grid. And you can see there he is pretty much 0.2 of a second quicker than Hamilton and Bottas in Sector 1. Sector 2 is still quick to a certain extent, but does have its medium speed and slow speed corners. Verstappen, though, still quickest, which I think, because of that DRS mini straight you have, and also the exit of turn 8 and the exit at turn 7 going into turn 8, I do think that is helping Red Bull because it is a high-speed corner in qualifying. I do think that was helping Red Bull be that just bit quicker in Sector 2. But in Sector 3, where you have 2 or 3, you have 2 slow corners, pretty slow corners, and then turn 13, which is, I'd say, a medium-speed corner. Mercedes, you can see 0.1 of a second quicker. So I think Mercedes, if they're going to hang on to the back of Verstappen in the race, as long as they stay within DRS of Verstappen down the pit straight, in Sector 2 and Sector 3 should be able to easily hang on, because it looks as though they're dead level, if not quicker, in the middle and final sector with Red Bull. But the first sector, Red Bull clearly quicker, and if they can't, Mercedes, get within a second of Verstappen by lap 3 or lap 4, then I think they might struggle to hang on to Verstappen enough to really put them under pressure coming up to the first round and possibly only round of pit stops today in Holland. Also, Pierre Gasly, pretty much, quick in all sectors. Also, Antonio Giovinazzi, second quickest in Sector 1. Don't quite know why he was so quick in that sector, to be honest, because in Sector 2, he's quite low down. I think 11th or something in Sector 2. And in Sector 3, he is up in 7th place. So, yeah, I don't understand quite why he's so quick in Sector 1, but there you go. And, I'd say other things to look at. Alpine look consistently, say, the quickest team after Ferrari. And, say, AlphaTauri with Pierre Gasly as well. Around 8th, 9th, 10th, pretty much in all the sectors. So, yeah, no real big surprise there. And you can also see that McLaren, really in all sectors, not really troubling, say, the front of the midfield. I mean, in Sector 1, the most power-dominant sector, again, where you would really expect McLaren to be quick, they're, 0.2 of a second slower than Charles Leclerc and the Ferrari in that sector. So, just simply not as quick as McLaren, as Ferrari, AlphaTauri with Gasly and Alpine on McLaren this weekend. And, pretty much everyone else is where, they qualified, and there's no real massive differences in the sectors. But I think definitely at the front 3 battle will be very close, and then the battle between Gasly and the 2 Ferraris will be close, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Then after that, I think we'll get a very close battle from Giovinazzi in 7th all the way down probably to Norris, or even maybe Latifi down in 14th. We might actually get a train from Giovinazzi in 7th all the way back to Sebastian Vettel in 17th. Because I don't think Giovinazzi will be able to have enough pace to not be, to not or to be able to break away. I just don't think Giovinazzi will have that pace to break away ahead of Ocon, Alonso, Ricciardo. I just don't see that happening at all. But before, guys, I get on to the rest of the midfield, just want to say, don't forget to subscribe, guys, if you are new to the channel for more content like this, because I will be live later today for the race watch along at 1:30 p.m. UK time. Hopefully you come along to that, and I will most likely be live later tonight at 7 p.m. UK time for the race review. The reason I'm saying most likely and not definitely is because I do feel very tired at the moment. I've been up since 4:30 in the morning, and yeah, like I said, I am very tired at the moment, so that's not a definite that the race review will happen. But by the end of the race watch along, given, you know, how I'm feeling, I'll definitely know whether that stream is going to happen. And if I feel as though I can do it, then I will absolutely get it done for you guys later tonight. So don't forget to subscribe for that coming up later today. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it there, or just go to my channel page and sub there and hit the notifications bell. Also, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. But now let's get on to the rest of the midfield. First off, Aston Martin. Aston Martin, kind of like McLaren, just not maybe as good as McLaren. Just really struggling this weekend. They're not really able to contend strongly for a top 10 finish over a single lap in terms of pure pace. Still think in the race they'll probably be able to contend strongly for points because they're always quicker on a race day. Lance Stroll is in 12th, and of course he always starts races very, very strongly and always tends to gain positions. So, yeah, I think Stroll will probably be very close to a point at the end of it all, at the end of the 72 laps in Holland. Sebastian Vettel, though, I think will probably struggle quite a bit. I think he'll probably finish, say, 13th and 14th. I think he's just too far back, really, to make anything happen. But in general, Aston Martin just don't really have the pace they had a week ago to really strongly contend here for, say, major points, which is what they need. After Sebastian Vettel's disqualification in Hungary, now they're quite a lot of points behind Alpine in the battle for 5th, and they do need a lot of points very, very soon to get back at Alpine and AlphaTauri in the Constructors' Championship, because if they were to finish this season as 7th in the Constructors, that would be a very poor season for Aston Martin. Now on to AlphaTauri. Pierre Gasly up in 4th place. Great drive. Probably one of the best drives of qualifying yesterday, because the AlphaTauri was not good enough to be up in 4th place. I don't think it is as good as the Ferrari overall. I think Gasly definitely helping the performance by being just so damn bloody good. Yeah, Gasly up in 4th, and his only hope if he's going to finish in 4th is that Ferrari don't work something out on the strategy that can, you know, get Leclerc or Carlos Sainz ahead of him, because I think, honestly, if Ferrari can't find a way through the pit stop phase to get ahead of Gasly, I just don't see how Ferrari are going to pass Gasly on track, because the Ferrari isn't that quick down the straights here at Zandvoort and just isn't in general. So I just don't see how Ferrari are going to pass Gasly on the circuit. So as long as Gasly and his team just get everything right and get the start right, most importantly, should finish in 4th place, really, in this Grand Prix. Yuki Tsunoda in 15th. Just really having quite a struggle this weekend. He really isn't getting to grips with this circuit. And yeah, just not really at it this weekend. But I think at Monza, in a week's time, I think he'll definitely be bouncing back there, where AlphaTauri as a team should be very, very strong. For Alpine, 8th and 9th on the grid is, as a team, is probably their best qualifying result they've had in quite a few races, because normally Alpine will have one car in the top 10 and say one car between 11th and 15th or something like that. So yeah, as a team, Alpine looking very good. They've looked good really all weekend. Yet again, Esteban Ocon out-qualifies Fernando Alonso. Ocon, I have to say, has had a pretty good season. Of course, has won a Grand Prix, so of course it's been a great season for him. But if you look at how he's done compared to Fernando Alonso, like I said, Ocon has had a pretty good Formula One season, and has, I think, finally shown that he does have the potential to rise up to that, say, podium level of being, in Formula One. I don't think he's yet shown, even though that drive in Hungary was very good, I don't think he has yet shown that he has the potential to be a consistent race winner in Formula One if he was to get into, say, a Red Bull or a Red Bull type car. I don't think, again, he has shown quite enough pace consistently for us to expect that from him. But given how he's performed this season, you'd have to say Ocon is looking like a driver who, if he was in the right car, he would definitely be scoring podiums on a consistent basis, and thankfully has not turned in, as I was fearing he would. He has not turned into another Nico Hülkenberg. But very good performance yesterday by Ocon in this season as well. Alonso also doing pretty well in 9th place. And I think Alpine, given they are 5th in the Constructors, as long as they get both cars in the top 10, I think they'll be happy with that. They'll be hoping, of course, that Gasly can have some trouble in the race somehow, which sometimes AlphaTauri do. There has been a bit of a theme this season that AlphaTauri qualify well and then don't race that well, or don't get the result because of reliability problems, or some sort of crash or something like that. So we'll see what happens with Gasly there. Hopefully I've not jinxed him when it comes to that. But as long as Alpine, like I said, get both cars in the points, given their position in the Constructors, I think they'll be pretty happy with that. Alfa Romeo, for the first time, are actually relevant when it comes to a Grand Prix, because Antonio Giovinazzi is up in P7. Can he hold on to that, though? It's hard to say. I think the only thing that can allow him to finish in the points is if it does prove to be a bit harder to overtake than we thought. It's going to be hard to overtake around here, but if it's even harder than expected, then I think that could allow Giovinazzi to finish in, say, 8th or 9th place. But if off of that banking with the DRS wide open, you can overtake for sure, then I think Giovinazzi might be in trouble, because the Alfa Romeo still, of course, are using the Ferrari power unit, so it is still pretty slow down the straights, and I think he might be at risk from the Alpines and the McLarens, and possibly Perez and Stroll behind as well. So I think Giovinazzi's in for a race really where he's just looking in his mirrors. I don't think he'll be really keeping up with the cars ahead, and I'd be very surprised if he was able to. But great drive from Giovinazzi, and honestly, I still hope that he stays in Formula One, because even though I think Albon, who is being massively rumoured at the moment, Alex Albon, even though he is good enough, Albon, to be on the grid, I don't think replacing Giovinazzi with Alex Albon is really much of an upgrade, because I think if you compare the two drivers, I think Giovinazzi is pretty much at the same level. You could argue that he's better than Albon in some aspects. I think Giovinazzi's probably the quicker driver over a single lap, and Albon probably a bit more consistent pace-wise over a race distance, but I think you could definitely have the argument that Giovinazzi is better than Alex Albon. But if he does keep a seat, I'd be very happy, because I do think the guy has been unlucky with his Formula One career, because once he has started to really perform against his teammate most of the time, Kimi Räikkönen, of course, Räikkönen not racing this weekend, and it's Robert Kubica who is starting in 18th place. We'll see how he gets on. Like I said, since Giovinazzi has really, and this was in the latter, say, third of 2019, since then, Giovinazzi, compared to Kimi Räikkönen in qualifying, Giovinazzi has hammered Räikkönen. But unfortunately for Antonio, the car, at the same time, with its performance, got worse. So that's why Antonio has not really been able to show this type of speed at other times, because the car has been so poor. So that is a shame. And hopefully he can replicate this sometime between now and the end of the season again to show that it's not just a fluke or it's not just because he likes this circuit in particular. But like I said, I do hope he stays on the grid for next season. And for Robert Kubica in 18th place, as long as he finishes the race and he finishes ahead of the two Haas's, I think that'll be good enough for the team. For Williams, 11th and 14th, I don't think they'll have the pace to finish in the points, but I wouldn't be as shocked if they did finish in the points as I would have been, say, a month or two ago, to be honest, because they have been pretty quick in the last 3 races. But I still think the car they have in the race just cannot match what they have in qualifying, where in qualifying, they're in the midfield, they're quite formidable, and they do tend to cause some surprises. And I think this is the, second consecutive Grand Prix where they've got both cars out of Q1, which is something that Williams were rarely doing in 2018, 2019, 2020. So, yeah, Williams have been very quick on a Saturday, very quick yesterday they were, but I don't think they'll have quite enough pace, and I don't think they'll be able to be as quick as, say, Norris behind Russell or even Perez behind the two Williamses. I just think those two, especially, will be too quick for the two Williamses. And yeah, Williams probably will finish between, say, 12th and 14th on the grid. But guys, that is it for this race preview for the 2021 Dutch Grand Prix. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and we'll be live in 2 hours from now at 1:30 PM UK time for the Dutch Grand Prix. Hopefully there is actually a race this time. And yeah, there probably will be, because I think it is blue skies yet again at Zandvoort. So yeah, make sure to come along to that in a couple hours. Again, don't forget to sub and hit the notifications bell for it. And smash the like button, share this video and channel every way you can. And don't forget as well to join my Discord server, link below in the description. We have pretty much 500 people in that server at the moment. And it is very active pretty much every day. So if you do want to join it, then go for it. Link is down below. And also, if you did miss the qualifying watch along, the best bits, the highlights of that stream are in the description down below. There's a link saying 2021 Dutch Grand Prix qualifying watch along best bits. If you want to see the best bits of my stream yesterday, then make sure to click the link and watch that in between now and the next stream in 2 hours' time. But guys, thanks for coming along. And until my race watch along in 2 hours from now, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.